This is a story that challenges everything we know about justice, faith, and miracles. The protagonist was not a saint. He was a man who had committed terrible mistakes. But what happened in his final hours would prove that the mercy of the Virgin Mary knows no limits. Prepare yourself to witness one of the most remarkable miracles ever documented inside a prison. A story that changed not only the life of a condemned man, but also forever transformed the faith of everyone who witnessed the impossible. Before we go on, drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time is right now. I'd love to see how far the miracles of the Virgin Mary are reaching. Daniel Rivera was 32 years old when he received his maximum sentence. During his childhood, Daniel would accompany his mother to Mass every Sunday. She always carried with her a small rosary and a medal of the Virgin Mary that had belonged to her own grandmother. "Daniel," she used to say, "when everything seems lost, remember that Our Lady never abandons her children." But life on the streets was stronger. At 15, Daniel became involved with gangs. By 17, he had already been arrested 3 times. At 23, during an attempted robbery, something went wrong. A police officer lost his life. Daniel swore his innocence, insisting that he was not the one who fired the shot, but the evidence appeared irrefutable. The trial lasted only 2 months. The prosecution portrayed Daniel as a dangerous, remorseless individual. The overworked and inexperienced public defender barely managed to present convincing arguments. The jury deliberated for only 3 hours before declaring him guilty. "Daniel Rivera," Judge Marshall said during the sentencing, "you have been found guilty of the crime against Officer Patrick O'Connor. This court sentences you to the maximum penalty." Rosa, his mother, collapsed in the courtroom. Over the 7 years that followed, she visited Daniel faithfully every single week, always bringing her Virgin Mary medal and praying the rosary with him through the glass that separated them. Daniel shared his cell only with his memories and a growing sense that he had been wronged, but he could not prove his innocence. During those 7 years, something began to change within him. The constant visits from his mother, always accompanied by prayers to the Virgin Mary, started to awaken again the faith he had lost on the streets. The prison chaplain, Father Thomas Sullivan, a 65-year-old Italian man, also played a key role in this transformation. He visited Daniel weekly, not bringing sermons about condemnation, but messages about forgiveness and redemption. "Daniel," Father Sullivan would say, "God knows the truth even when men fail to find it." During the 5th year of his imprisonment, Daniel began attending the prison services. He relearned how to pray the rosary, as his mother had taught him in childhood. Gradually, he began to find peace, even knowing that his sentence was drawing near. But it was during the 7th year that something extraordinary happened. Daniel was in his cell praying the rosary that his mother had managed to get authorized for him when he had a vision. A woman dressed in blue and white appeared before him with a gentle smile and eyes full of compassion. "Son," she said with a voice as soft as a breeze, "your mother has never stopped praying for you. Keep praying. The truth always comes to light." Daniel blinked and the vision disappeared, but the sense of peace it left behind remained with him. He told Father Sullivan about the experience, who listened with attention and respect. "Daniel," said the priest, "Our Lady appears to those who need her most." On March 10th, 2008, Daniel received the final notice. His sentence was scheduled for March 13th at 5 a.m. All legal appeals have been exhausted. There will be no more postponements. In the 2 days leading up to his sentence, Daniel received his mother's visit for the last time. Rosa, now 70 years old and visibly weakened by the years of struggle to save her son, arrived carrying something special. "Son," she said, holding a small framed image of the Virgin Mary, "this image belonged to your great-grandmother, then to your grandmother, then to me. I want you to have it in your final moments." The image was nothing elaborate, a small print of Our Lady in a simple silver frame, no larger than the palm of the hand. But for the family, it represented decades of faith, prayer, and hope. Daniel held the image against his chest and cried as he had not cried since childhood. "Mother," he said, Thank you for never giving up on me. On March 12th, one day before the sentence, the warden, James Harrison, went to Daniel's cell to ask about his last wishes. What will your last meal be? Harrison asked. Daniel looked at the small image of the Virgin in his hands. I don't want a special meal, sir. I only ask that you allow me to keep this image of the Virgin Mary with me until the end. Harrison frowned. It was not common for a condemned man to refuse a last meal. Are you sure? You can ask for whatever you want. I'm sure, Daniel replied. I only need her with me. The warden agreed. After all, it was a simple and harmless request. That last night, Daniel could not sleep. He spent the hours praying the rosary and gazing at the image of Our Lady. Around 2 o'clock in the morning, he began to recite a prayer his mother had taught him in childhood. Virgin Mary, Mother of God, and our Mother, intercede for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. You who are the refuge of the afflicted and the consolation of the sorrowful, receive me in your mercy. It was then that the first miracle happened. Around 2:30 a.m., the night guard, Steve Martinez, was making his routine rounds along the corridor when he noticed a soft light emanating from Daniel's cell. At first, he thought it was just a reflection, but as he drew closer, he realized the light came directly from the small image of the Virgin Mary. Daniel, Martinez called, "What the hell is going on in there?" Daniel looked at the guard, then at the image in his hands. He too was seeing the light, a golden and gentle radiance that seemed to pulse softly. I don't know, Daniel replied, his voice filled with awe. She's glowing. Martinez stepped closer to the bars. He had worked in that prison for 14 years and had never seen anything like it. The light came from no external source. It emanated directly from the small image. That's not possible, murmured Martinez, grabbing his radio. Central Control, this is Martinez. I need someone to come to cell 23 immediately. Within minutes, the night supervisor, Robert Shun, arrived, accompanied by 2 other guards. They all froze before the phenomenon. The small image kept glowing with a soft but unmistakable light. It must be some kind of trick, said Shun. Try to keep rational. Daniel, where did you get this? My mother brought it, Daniel replied, still in awe of what he was seeing. It's a family image that has been passed down for generations. Shun called the warden Harrison, who arrived at the prison at 3:45 a.m. When he saw the light emanating from the image, he was left completely speechless. Call the chaplain, Harrison ordered, and let no one speak of this until we understand what is happening. Father Sullivan arrived at 4:15 a.m. When he saw the image glowing in Daniel's hands, he immediately knelt down. Lord, have mercy on us, whispered the priest. This is a sign. A sign of what? Asked Harrison, clearly disturbed. Our Lady is interceding, Father Sullivan replied with conviction. Something extraordinary is going to happen. On the morning of March 13th, the day of the sentence fulfillment, news about the shining image of the Virgin Mary had spread among the staff. Some guards were requesting to be transferred to other sectors, fearful of the supernatural. Others, out of curiosity, found excuses to pass through the corridor. Around 7 a.m., something extraordinary happened. One of the most senior guards, David Bennett, a 56-year-old man known for his harsh and skeptical personality, approached Daniel's cell. Bennett had worked in that prison for 22 years. He had witnessed dozens of sentence fulfillments and prided himself on never showing emotion. But when Bennett looked at the image of the Virgin Mary in Daniel's hands, something happened that changed his life forever. He began trembling uncontrollably and collapsed to his knees on the cold floor of the corridor. I can't anymore, Bennett cried out, tears streaming down his hardened face. I can't carry this weight any longer. Daniel and the other guards were shocked. Bennett was known for never showing weakness or emotion. What's going on, Bennett? Asked Harrison, who had come running after hearing the screams. Elite, shouted Bennett, sobbing uncontrollably. I lied at the trial. Daniel is not guilty. The silence that followed was deafening. Harrison felt his legs grow weak. What are you talking about? Asked the warden. Bennett kept crying, his words coming out between sobs. I was there that night. I saw everything. It was Marcus Delgado, not Daniel. But Marcus was a police informant, and Detective Morrison paid me to lie at the trial. Daniel clutched the image of the Virgin to his chest, barely able to believe what he was hearing. I carried this lie for 7 years, Bennett continued. Every day, I thought of his mother's face in the courtroom, but I was afraid of what Morrison would do to me if I told the truth. Harrison immediately called the prosecution and the defense. Bennett's confession, witnessed by several prison staff members, was enough to immediately halt the sentence. At 10:30 a.m. on March 13th, Daniel's sentence was officially suspended. Bennett's confession triggered a full investigation into Daniel's case. Detective Richard Morrison, already retired, was interrogated and ended up confirming the corruption scheme that had led to Daniel's wrongful conviction. Marcus Delgado, the real culprit, had died 2 years earlier in another state. But the evidence that had been suppressed during the original trial was finally brought to light. The prosecution, faced with undeniable evidence of police misconduct and perjury, had no choice but to drop all charges against Daniel. On May 20th, 2008, almost 2 months after the original date of his sentence, Daniel walked out of prison a free man. His mother, Rosa, was waiting outside the gates, holding the same Virgin Mary medal she had carried during all those years of vigil and prayer. "Our Lady never abandoned you, my son," she said, embracing the son who had been returned to her by a miracle. Daniel's story quickly spread, not only because of the injustice he had suffered, but mainly because of the miracles that preceded his release. The small image of the Virgin Mary, which had shone on that last night in prison, was examined by experts. They found no scientific explanation for the light that had emanated from it. The image of Our Lady was exactly what it appeared to be, a simple silver-framed religious image. Daniel used the compensation he received from the state to create a foundation dedicated to helping other prisoners who had been wrongfully convicted. Father Sullivan, who had accompanied Daniel throughout his entire journey, said this was the most powerful miracle of Mary he had ever witnessed in his 38 years of priesthood. Our Lady came into a prison, he said in a later interview, to save not only Daniel, but also the soul of David Bennett. She turned pain into redemption, lies into truth, and despair into hope. Rosa lived to see her son get married and have 2 children. She passed away in 2012 at the age of 74, holding the same Virgin Mary medal she had carried with her throughout her life. The small image of the Virgin Mary that had shone that night is now kept on a special altar in Daniel's home. He looks at it every day and remembers the night when Our Lady interceded for him in such a powerful way that it transformed hearts of stone. David Bennett, the guard who confessed, served a reduced sentence for perjury due to his cooperation in exposing the corruption. Upon his release, he dedicated his remaining years to working alongside Daniel's foundation, helping other wrongfully convicted prisoners find justice. His testimony about what he witnessed that night in the prison never wavered. "I saw the light from that image," he would say repeatedly to anyone who asked, "and I felt the weight of my lies crushing me until I could no longer breathe. The Virgin Mary gave me the courage I could not find on my own." Detective Morrison faced criminal charges for his role in the corruption scheme. He lost his pension and spent several years in prison. Multiple cases he had worked on were reviewed, leading to several other exonerations. The system that had failed Daniel and so many others was forced to confront its failures and implement reforms. Daniel's case became a landmark for wrongful conviction advocacy. Law schools began studying it as an example of systemic failures in the justice system. Innocence projects across the country referenced it in their work. But for the faithful, it remained primarily a story of the Virgin Mary's miraculous intervention. The image that had shown never displayed that phenomenon again, yet remained a powerful symbol of divine mercy. Daniel kept it in a temperature-controlled display case on his home altar, surrounded by candles and fresh flowers. Thousands of people made pilgrimages to see it over the years. Each visitor left transformed, not by the image itself, but by the story it represented. Mercy that knows no walls, faith that survives the darkest nights, and truth that eventually comes to light. Father Sullivan meticulously documented everything for the church records. He collected testimonies from all the witnesses, the guards who saw the light, the warden who halted the execution, the experts who examined the image and found no explanation. The church launched an investigation into the events for potential recognition as a miraculous occurrence. The process continues to this day. Daniel now speaks at churches, prisons, and universities across the country. His message remains consistent. I was hours from execution. The world had abandoned me, but my mother never stopped praying to the Virgin Mary. And Our Lady heard those prayers. She didn't just save my life, Daniel continues in his testimony. She saved my soul, Bennett's soul, and restored the faith of everyone who witnessed what happened that night. His story resonates because it is real, documented, and witnessed by both skeptics and believers alike. This story reminds us that the mercy of the Virgin Mary knows no walls, no bars, and no sentences. She intercedes, especially for those who need it the most, for those whom the world has already abandoned. The miracle of the Virgin Mary was not only that Daniel was set free. The true miracle was how the intercession of Our Lady transformed everyone involved, from the guard who found the courage to tell the truth, to the warden who witnessed the power of faith, to a justice system forced to confront its own corruption. If this story of the miracle of the Virgin Mary has touched your heart, share it with your loved ones. May it inspire us never to give up on prayer, even when everything seems lost. Our Lady never abandons her children. No matter how dark the night may be, the light of her mercy can always shine through it. Subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories about the miracles of the Virgin Mary. And remember, when everything seems impossible, bring your pleas to the feet of Our Lady. She is always listening.